Ar-Rahman, Ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah, Rabbil Alameen. Alhamdulillah, nahmaduhu wa nasta'inuhu wa nastaghfiruhu wa natubu ilayhi wa na'udhu billahi min shururi anfusina wa sayyiati a'malina. Wa ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lahu. I seek refuge in Allah from the rejected enemy Shaitan. With Allah's name, the most merciful benefactor, the most merciful redeemer, all praise is due to Allah alone. We praise Him and we seek help from Him. And we seek forgiveness from Him. We repent to Him. We seek refuge in Him from our own weaknesses. I bear witness. There is no deity except Allah alone. He's independent. And I bear witness that Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is his messenger to mankind. So we're gonna look today and looking at the beauty of today and what Allah has given us in terms of the Quran. We're going to probably do more of what we talked a little bit about our last Jumu'ah in terms of actually we were talking about a team, but this is connected. This is a dua that Allah had Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam to say. And for us to repeat. It's a dua, actually ayah in the Quran, only ayah in the Quran, where we say it's a dua. It begins with Ibrahim as telling his father's generation that they were wrong. They were serving idols. They were idol worshippers. And Ibrahim searched on his own, and Allah blessed him to come into an understanding. And it was here where Allah says to Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, repeat this. Where he says, "Qul innani hadani Rabbi ila silati mustaqim dinaki yana milata Ibrahim hanifa wa ma kana mushrikin." He's saying to Prophet Muhammad that Abraham, he says, I'm guiding you, talking to Muhammad and us now. Every time he revealed to Prophet Muhammad, it was a message. In the message always the recipient of the message. All the messages in the Quran was not exclusively for Prophet Muhammad, although some of them were, but we still can use those too. But here, he is saying, say, verily, surely, my Lord has guided me to a way that is straight, to the path, or to the religion of right, the path by which Ibrahim traveled, the same path. And it says, Ibrahim was upright. Ibrahim was upright. Hanifa. Ibrahim was upright, and he did not associate God with Allah. So he's letting Prophet Muhammad know that here's what you have to say, and here's what you have to do. You have to do as Ibrahim, because Ibrahim was the first in the human development where the concept of getting away from a worshiping of deities that was other than Allah, worshiping of idol worship, worshiping more than one God, all of those things were being left behind in the past. Allah allowed man to come into that kind of understanding. He didn't resist man's knowledge and resist man to say, you can't ever think of anything you think is God. No, he allowed man to be able to find his own way if he thought he could. He allowed man to do that. And we see in history that this occurred. When we read history, we see that in history it came a time in the human beings' time that human beings said, I searched everything my fathers and them searched, and what they were worshiping was idol worship. In other words, there came a time when the community that Allah was raising to bring knowledge to the world, there came a time when that community, and it's usually represented by an individual, but it's a community, that resisted the understanding that people before them had, resisted the concept of association, the Creator, with other deities. Because at the time that this occurred, which is over 2,000 years ago, and some say even further back than that, 13th dynasty, and many say it occurred in Egypt, that this particular situation occurred. And as you know, the Egyptian history, they did believe in more than one God in Egyptian history. They believed in Amun-Ra. They had other gods and other deities. Not only did the Egyptians, but when we look at the history of other people going through Africa and other parts of the world, even as far over here, when we had the Aztecs and the Incas down in South America, and the Aztecs here in the United States, what we call the United States now, was in India, it was in Mexico, and there were over like 25 million Aztecs and 40 million Incas. And they had deities they worshipped. And they believed, they were idol worshiping. So this is not just talking about in Egypt. It is talking about this event. It's more about an event than a place. And this is the way we need to start thinking in terms of context. In terms of context, in terms of concept, the context and ideas that we can conceive how they can exist. More than just the literal aspect. So we know that happened because Allah said it happened in the Quran. And we didn't find out about it until modern day history. Modern day history after Quran. Modern day history, we did some searching and found that this was true, and this was true, and it happened in Egypt. That we know it happened. But what's more impacting is that there are other things that happened. And those other things that happened gave us a view on times to come. Actually, when we're looking at the subject of today, we're looking at a subject that's primarily talking about the end of time. But we're using that as showing the beginning. You see, before we can end a certain thing, you have to have a beginning. And to say that Allah says this world is going to end, whatever world you develop going to end, it had to begin somewhere. And Allah is saying that in this particular ayah, it began when man began to recognize there is not but one God. When man began to recognize that God is not some rock or group of deities. That was the beginning. From that point on, Allah is telling us that we are responsible now. We're responsible because He says He said in the Quran that in paradise, Eden, how do you want to term that? It's when he said to man, when man was following his weaknesses, being led by his weaknesses, he said that, get thee down from here, talking about from the garden, talking to man and his weaknesses, because the weaknesses are viewed in that particular ayat as shaitan. Shaitan is viewed as man's weaknesses, as man's weakest part, coming through his emotions, even through his intellect too, but it's still his weaknesses. And he said, get thee down from here, all of you. And then he said, there will come a time when he was going to send a light, when he was going to send someone to rescue man. So that time, after the time, then man is responsible. Man now is responsible for the recognition of the Creator. Man is now responsible for coming to the concept that Allah has revealed to us. Man is now responsible. Before that, Allah didn't hold us responsible for that. He didn't hold us responsible for that. He said you can do it. In fact, if you read the Quran, you're going to find where Allah told Shaitan. He said, the Shaitan says, let me be around on the day of resurrection, or the day when this truth, if you let me stay to that day, I will show you that man is not worthy. The moral consciousness that's in man is not worthy to use or to lead the intellect and emotional capacity of man. Because the moral consciousness is not strong enough. This is what Shaitan's argument. Shaitan's argument to Allah. His argument was that I, the prince of emotion, the leader of enthusiasm, the leader of emphasis when emphasis should be placed, when it's like using punctuation in writing. When you use punctuation in writing, you use a comma, you use an exclamation point, you use a period. That's what Shaitan said he was representing. He said he's representing the exclamation point of this creation. He's representing the question in the creation. He's representing the period in the creation. He's representing all the capital letters in the creation. He was saying the creation doesn't have emphasis without me. I'm the one that gives the creation emphasis. This is what Shaitan was saying in his argument. This is the point he was trying to make. When in the statement he said, I am better than he, I am better, I am the best part that you created, that's what that statement is saying. I am the best part from him. So when we see that, we begin to get a clearer picture as to what we should be looking at today. And when we study history and study different things, we find that we're living in the time when the old prophecies, and many of the old prophecies are already terminated. But many of the old prophecies weren't really mentioned in Quran. They were really mentioned in the Torah, or the books before Quran. Because the Quran came as the final conclusion. Allah says Prophet Muhammad was the seal of the prophets. So in other words, you don't look for another prophet to come to tell you about what's going to happen and how it's going to happen no more. That's over with. That ended with Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But it was still in existence in books like the Torah, and especially the Torah of the one that came after Musa, or the teachings that were brought by Musa. The Torah, the first 5 books of the Torah was the books of Musa. And that ran all the way from Deuteronomy. It ended with Deuteronomy, Genesis and Deuteronomy. And it ran from Deuteronomy all the way out to Malachi. Now from Deuteronomy to Malachi was written by rabbis, was written by scribes. It's not deemed as revelation. It's not deemed as revelation from Allah. The Torah is deemed as revelation, but that's talking about the first 5 books of the Bible, of the Jewish Bible. It's made of 2 parts. And in the last part, you will see there's a lot of prophecies going on. In the last part, you will see that the prophecies that are going on are talking about what's going to happen, who's going to rule, who's going to be in charge, how things are going to come down to the final hour. And when you read through it, you will see in there's a book, and one of them is called the Book of Malachi. And in Malachi, it talks about, it says, in the last and grateful days. Now, that's talking about the end of prophecy. The last and grateful days. Behold, I will send you Elijah, and he will turn the hearts of the fathers to the sons and the hearts of the sons to the fathers. Now, what that prophecy was saying, that prophecy, remember now, was written by scribes, written by Pharisees. These are prophecies not by Allah, not in Quran in that form, but they're written in a way to convince the reader and convince the people who come under that kind of prophecy and spell that there's going to be something going to come to change things, to rule them. And up until that time, they could be ruled by a particular prophecy. And that prophecy is going to hold true until the prophet Elijah came. Now, this was written and adhered to by many people. And much of the world that existed because of these prophecies. It was these prophecies that ruled the world. And it was these prophecies that allowed those who wrote the prophecies an opportunity to rule over the world. There was some bold predictions in there, and some bold comments, ideas, and causing people to commit themselves to things. And in the writings, you find what most of it was written by, as I said, by the Pharisees and the scribes. They came after, and the rabbis. They were doing most of that writing when they spent some time in Babylon. Now, they got into Babylon because they were run out of Egypt. Now, I know how you read the story in the Torah and in the Bible. And I know how Allah explains it to us in the Quran. And if you read how Allah explains it to us in the Quran, you see He puts clarity to it. Puts clarity to it. Doesn't leave it in some kind of mystical, mysterious way. Those who wrote that scripture, or those prophecies, they got from Egypt commandments. The king of the Pharaoh of Egypt and the people who ran Egypt, they had their own rules, had their own laws. And they developed these laws and rules over a period of time. And if you read those laws, and they're out there, and nobody should be ignorant nowadays. We're through with ignorance. But they're out there. You should read those laws and look at the laws and rules of Akhenaten, one of the pharaohs of Egypt. And you'll see that they resemble the Ten Commandments. The Ten Commandments. The same Ten Commandments you read, thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not this, thou shalt not. That was present long before the Hebrews, not the Hebrews, but the people who you call Jews wrote that. And I'm using the word called Jews because they weren't called Jews at that time. That came later. What they were called at that time, most of them was of a Semitic group that came out of North Africa and moved into Egypt and lived in Egypt for 150 years in northern Egypt until the pharaohs ran them out, ran them into Babylon. And Babylon is where they stayed most of the time they were doing their writing. And as you know from your history, that Babylon was a corrupt town, corrupt city. It was one of the most corrupt. And Babylon is where they said that the Tower of Babel was built. You remember in your Bible studies where it talks about the Tower of Babel when man thought he was going to reach the Creator, and he kept building this, bringing all of the humanity together, of all scientists together, and then finally the Creator got tired of it and caused them all to speak different languages. They tell you that's where the languages come from in those stories. But it's to confuse you. The concept was that Babylon had reached the height of moral decadency. Babylon was one of the most moral decadent countries of that time, of that era. And these people who were Semites, they was called Yahud. Yahud, that's the Quran refers to them as. And they were living there, and they were writing scripture in there. So much of what you read in scripture was tainted by their thinking and by their being exposed to that way of life. So you end up with the Talmud, a book that talks about homosexuality, a book that talks about males having sex with young boys. It talks about all those kinds of things. It talks about how they can kill another person if they're not a Jew. And the penalty would not be harsh on them. It got all of those ideas and concepts and put them into the Talmud. And the Talmud is the book most of them go by. Now remember, the world that you're living in, that you're leaving, was built by this kind of mind. Allah says Shaitan built it. This is Shaitan's world. He said it clearly. The world of Shaitan. And if you know your history and read your history, then you see what Allah is talking about. The mind that established the world that we living in, and how corrupt it is, and how it was designed to weaken man, how it was designed to break man down, to make man immoral, to make man lose his moral consciousness so they can control man. This is what that book was designed to do. And it was designed to do that for a period of time because the human being of that time believed it up until a period of time. Because the prophecy said in the last and great dreadful days, Elijah was going to come. Now, most religious scholars of Bible, Quran, would tell you that all the scholars, the Jewish scholars and all the rest of them, believed that that time ended in 1945. The prophecy ended in 1945, which meant that all the people, the Ashkenazis, that's a group, another group called the Khazaris, that's another group. All those groups took on the label of being Jews. They took on the group, this big European groups. There are thousands of them in Europe. One Ashkenazi from Germany, German group. That's why they're the ones who invented Yiddish. That's why Yiddish sounds so much like German. If you go to your computer and click up and bring up Yiddish, you think you're hearing German if you know some German. If you don't know German, put the two side by side. You say, whoa, these are, because they were Germans. This is why when you look at the word Ashkenazi, Nazi, when you see that suffix, N-A-Z-I, what does that spell? That spells Nazi. That spelled Nazi. They were part of that. That's why Hitler used that. Because it was part of the same kind of group trying to get control, trying to rule. And they just broke it down a little differently. One group was trying to outpower the next group to take over. Because these were people without a land. These were people who were just communities inside of other countries. And they wanted a country of their own. They wanted a country in Russia. They wanted Russia to give them some land. Because the great majority of their people came out of Russia, lived in Russia. The Khazaris. The Khazaris were the connection between Turkey and the Caucasus Mountains. That's where they built thousands of them. They were a nomadic group. They are the ones who took up this concept of Judaism. They said, we're Jews now. So did the Ashkenazis. Look at the history. And you're going to see that it's these people who took the scripture from the original scripture and began to change it. And begin to change it so it'll fit their needs, fit their means. So that the world would follow them. Because they knew they had the Christian hooked. Because the Christian had already succumbed to the writings and concept of Josephus. The latter is Josephus, who was a Jew, a Roman Jew, who wrote scripture, who took the Torah and wrote it like he wanted to write it, wrote the books that the Jews had, and wrote it like he wanted to write it to try to convince the Jews, or those people we're calling Jews. And then he couldn't convince them, then he hoodwinked another group of pagans. And the pagans were the ones they called Christians. They are the first to be called Christians, and you find that in the book of Antioch. I mean, you find that in the Bible at Antioch when that took place. Just Google it, you'll find it. All of this was happening, and the world was growing. And as the world came to its semi-conclusion, Allah, 1,400 years ago, prepared for this day. For us, we didn't know how to prepare for it, but we didn't even know, man didn't even know what the loop it was in. Because 1,400 years ago, they wasn't in the whole loop. It was only in the foundation. This started in 800 years ago, 900 years ago, when they started doing all of this kind of putting together schemes and ideas. But Allah was way ahead of them. Allah says to you, He says to me, He says to the world, it tells us that we don't need any other God now. It tells us we don't need no prophecy. We don't need nobody coming before us telling us, oh, the prophecy said this, and the prophecy said that. We don't need that. The world, all the world needs now, and all the world Allah invites us to, is this Quran. The old world is dead. It's dead. It's gone. No matter what you think, it's dead. No matter how you see it, it's dead. Now, if you were thinking it was supposed to blow up, this planet Earth was supposed to blow up, you was under another misconception. It is talking about the philosophy that was established hundreds of years ago to cause this whole world to move in a direction. That world is dead. Even the leaders of that world don't know what to do with it today. Don't you see these leaders running around, don't know which way they're going? Why? Because they don't have any prophecies to follow. They don't have any line of direction anymore. They have to make it up as they go. We're in a new world right now. A new world that has to come into existence. Because Allah said it was going to come into existence because the old world was going out. And you had the advantage. You have the advantage because you have guidance from Allah. You have the Quran by which to get this new world moving and in a direction that benefits humanity. Have an opportunity to make the world in a world that's going to be profitable for the spirit of the humanity. A world based on our moral consciousness. So with that, we want to take it to a poem. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah. Rabbil Alameen. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh. So, in bringing our talk today to a close, I want to leave you with the concept that Allah has us in the Quran. When you look at the world, you're looking at a world that's being formulated. You're looking at a world that's coming into existence now. And you are the key component. Allah says He created a community to be a balanced community. That community, and Allah uses the word exemplified community, exemplary community. He even says Prophet Muhammad is an exemplary prophet, messenger, for us to look at as an example. serve as an example for the world to move into a better time. And what Allah did in the ayat that we were reading in the opening, he closed it, didn't close, excuse me, he continued that ayat. But this time it changed a little bit. The first part, when we're looking at the part when he's telling the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam to say, surely my Lord has guided me to a straight way, path of Ibrahim. And Ibrahim was not of the one pagan, certain pagan gods, or more than one God. We even get that in our Shahid. When we say, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, Ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasulullah, we're saying that. We're pretty much saying that same kind of commitment. No, that's not commitment. That's a recognition. That's not commitment. That's recognition. We'll recognize it, we're saying. We'll recognize that there is no God but Allah. In all of the capacity we have to be able to recognize something or recognize whatever exists, what we think exists or don't exist, we recognize that there is no God. No God, no deity except Allah. That's what we say as Shahid. When you say witness, you're talking about you recognize conclusively all your faculties, as hard as you can think, with all the study you can do, all the comments you can make, everything that comes to your mind, you recognize that there is no God but Allah. Then you say, and I recognize that Muhammad, 1400 years ago, to whom the Quran was revealed, is his messenger. Is his messenger. Now that's a recognition. That is a recognition. But Allah takes it a little further than that. He takes it into the commitment. He says to Prophet Muhammad, he says, Qul inna salati wa nusuki wa mahyaya wa mamati lillahi rabbi alameen. Okay, that's a step further now. We're talking about a commitment now. You're not talking about no more, or you talking about I recognize that God is Allah. I recognize that Muhammad is his messenger. You're beyond that now. Allah says here, he says, say, surely or truly, my prayers, my salat, my prayers, and my service of sacrifice, my life, and my death are for Allah, the Lord of all the worlds, all systems of knowledge, everything that has a way to grow and develop. This is who I am committed to. That's what Allah says do. And that's what we all are commanded to do when we read Quran. We are commanded to say our salat. It's for Allah, not for us. Allah guided us. It's for Allah. See, now that takes another kind of thought. See, a lot of people say, well, if you're not praying, you're not doing this and you're not doing that. See, but if you are praying and you're not praying for Allah, that's hypocritical. You know, even a hypocrite can pray. Hypocrite can give sadaqah, hypocrite can give money, hypocrite can do all the things. That's what a hypocrite means. One who deceives you to believe he's doing the same thing you're doing for the same purpose, but all the time he has another motive. So, it's for Allah. You have to give yourself to Allah in salat. Everything else is out your mind. Everything else is out your thinking. And then everything is going to kind of trying to creep in on you. Even thoughts of what you did yesterday or what you're going to do today or whatever happened is going to kind of creep in on you while you're trying to make salat. You have to push it out. You have to be focused that your salat is for Allah. Nothing else. Nothing else shares this space except Allah. This is what you're saying. When you make a salat, you say nothing else shares this space while I'm making salat. Nothing else shares the space in my mind. Nothing else shares the space in my memory, my thought, my nothing, not my wife, not my husband, not my children, not my lover, not my money, not my nothing, except Allah. Nothing shares that space except Allah when you make your salat. Now you get other times when you make du'as and make other, ask Allah for things, but in your salat, has to be for Allah. Then he says, my service of sacrifice. What is your service of sacrifice? You commit yourself now. You're not committing yourself to your brother. You're not committing yourself to your wife or your husband. You're not committing yourself to your children. You're not committing yourself to this masjid. You're not committing yourself to your imam to you. You're committing yourself to Allah. When you say, my service of sacrifice, my service of, what is your service of sacrifice? The biggest service and the simplest service of sacrifice we have is sadaqah. Do you know how easy that is to meet that commitment? Sadaqah? There are other things you can do for service of sacrifice too. It may take a lot more emphasis. But sadaqah is easy because Allah said He already gave you the means. He already gave you a way to make money. He already gave you what you need to live on. So He's asking you only to give up what He's given you already. And He's not asking you to check your brother out. He's not asking your brother to check you out. He's asking you to check you out. He's asking you to be sincere to Him when He says that. What you give, sadaqah, should be coming from your heart, from your love of Allah. You shouldn't even hesitate because you love Allah that much and you're that committed to what Allah has you committed to. So your sadaqah comes full force from your heart and all you can. In fact, Allah had to put provisions on it to keep believers from giving up what they need. You don't have to give, so put a percentage on it. So you don't have to give up what you need, what you have to live on. But you do have to give that what you know you can give. It may hurt a little bit. That's why it's a sacrifice. It's not going to take away, you should not be giving your mortgage. You should not be giving your food bill. You should only be giving that which Allah has given you to take care of the provisions. And now you might want to go to see a special movie. You might want to go to a special dinner. You might want to buy a brand new car. You might want to do all these other things with that money, and you can afford to do it. This is the service of sacrifice. This is the sacrifice. The sacrifice when you can do something else with your money, you know what you can do. Nobody knows it but you and Allah. And it's up to you to give that sacrifice. That sacrifice from your heart. And then Allah even goes further. On in the book He says, when you give sadaqah of doing other good deeds, this is going to be waiting for you. In other words, you're not just going to be cashed out. You know how they do sometimes, they cash out. You go use your credit card, and they say, you're not cashed out, man. You owe the limit. It's not even going to be like that. All you give, all you do, is going to be waiting for you. This is what Allah says. Don't worry about somebody else. Don't worry about nobody else on this planet. Just you and Allah. Then He concludes in that ayah, concludes when He says, my life and my death. That is almost self-explanatory in that what you give in terms of your life, you're living, what you're living for. When a person sees you, when a person sees the way you live, they should be saying, what a beautiful life that Islam is. They should be saying, what a beautiful, beautiful messenger that Muhammad was. They should be seeing you and be able to wish they were doing what you were doing. They should, when they see you, they say, look, I want you to come and talk with us. When they see you, they say, and if you're young and not married, they say, I want you to talk to my daughter. This is the kind of, you're the kind of man I want my daughter to marry. They should be seeing that kind of person. And every time you are seen on the streets, the police officers should be able to say, alhamdulillah, look, there goes another Muslim. There goes another one that's following Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That's one who we know going to help build a society and not tear it down. These are so important. And your death is only for Allah. There are people who are dying for drugs. There are people who are dying for girlfriends and boyfriends. I've heard of people committing suicide because somebody said, I don't want you no more. Wow, that's a pretty heavy thing. I don't want you no more. I don't want you as my girlfriend or my boyfriend or my husband or my wife. No more. I'm through with you. And they commit suicide. And then some of them, not only do they commit suicide, they kill their children. You see, so you're talking about something that they're far, far away from the commitment. The commitment is our life and our death. See, when we die as a Muslim, believing as a Muslim, living the life of a Muslim. We die not less, we be Muslim. That's what we do. So we thank Almighty Allah for blessing us to be here this day of Jumu'ah. And this new day that's coming into times, and you're going to hear people refer to this time because they don't know what else to call it, as the New World Order. You know, it's just a new world coming in that Allah created. But they don't want to be part of it, so they're trying to name it. But we thank Allah for blessing us being here today, and this day, and on this day here, Jumu'ah. And we ask Allah to give us the best of this world. رَبِّنَا آتِنَا فِي الدُّنْيَا حَسَنَةً وَفِي الْآخِرَةِ حَسَنَةً وَقِنَا عَذَابَ النَّارِ. Our Lord, give us the best of this world and of the hereafter, and protect us from the fire. Amen. He comes to Salah.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, ashhadu an la ilaha illallah.